We're with Admirals assistant coach Scott Ford, and let's talk about the first couple of days of camp here in Milwaukee. What have you seen? What have you noticed?
Just a lot of high pace and, a lot of excitement and energy. We've got a youthful group here and, obviously a lot of highly skilled players and, it's exciting. Everybody's geared up, ready to go, and, there's a lot of numbers on the ice and, we've tried to get a lot of repetitions in with everybody and, by the end of the practice, the ice is just torched. So the guys are working hard and are extremely excited to kind of start bashing heads against somebody else here this week.
Exactly. You were part of, speaking of bashing heads against somebody else, you were part of the rookie camp down in Nashville and the tournament that they had down in Florida. Talk about that experience, what it was like being on the bench and all of that.
Well, it's definitely a transition. It's been kind of fast and furious here. It wasn't that long ago where I was playing in June, and it's something that I was excited to transition into. It's a great opportunity here, and I'm very fortunate to be in an organization that I'm familiar with, and that is excited to have me in too. It was great to be back down in Nashville and to take part in the rookie festivities, and then just main camp, kind of being behind closed doors and getting to see the business side of it and learning the little nuances of what goes on behind closed doors. It's when you're playing, you basically come to the rink and you try not to worry about the things you can't control, and to be able to kind of sit in and listen to the controlling factors it was neat. It was pretty cool to see.
I've heard people say, guys who I've reached out to say that this has been something you've talked with people over several years, coaches you've had, whatever, that maybe this is something you wanted to do. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. I've always had an excitement, I guess, for kind of teaching and development as well as, coaching. I've been a part of a hockey school at home for a number of years. I've, obviously my latter part of my years here as a captain and as a pro, I was in a position to, develop and to help out the youth and to push guys on. And, I found excitement and, fulfillment in seeing those guys succeed and seeing those guys be able to play at the next level. And, to see them continue that, there's probably a handful of defensemen up there right now and, a handful of forwards that we developed here in Milwaukee. And, hopefully I had a little bit of part in that.
Let's talk a little bit about what you're expecting Friday in the first exhibition game, Saturday in the second exhibition game.
Well, I think just, a lot of kind of what we've been kind of stressing right through camp in Nashville and right through here, playing at a high pace, getting in on the forecheck aggressively. And, we have a lot of guys here that are proving themselves and trying to find spots, whether it's ice time on special teams, finding their role here and kind of continuing what was stressed to them in Nashville. And then, guys just trying to make the lineup and trying to do whatever they can in order to succeed and to put their best foot forward and have, a great first impression here in Milwaukee. Whether they're going to be up and down guys with Nashville or Cincinnati or here, their guys are here to make an impression. And, all week's been exciting and, it's been a different process for me being on this side of it. And I'm excited for the guys. They've worked hard for it.
Have you been the biggest sponge that you can possibly be?
Maybe almost too much. There's been some bloopers here and there and some things that, happened in Nashville. And, we laugh like, instead of moving the pucks, from one end to the other, or doing the coaches' things, taking a knee in the pile and taking stuff like that, like you're a player, you get the eyebrow raised a little bit or get yelled at, kick in the butt for from Dean and Stan, and they've been great. They've been great, teachers and great mentors. I have a good relationship with them. When they were coaching, and they've helped me out a lot thus far. But that does not come without the ribbing and the hard times, of course.
Well, especially up in that room. Yeah, it's good to have you, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
That's Admirals assistant coach Scott. We're with Admirals.